Whoa. Do you know what today is?
Uh-oh.
Huh?
Guess what day it is?
Huh? Do you know what today is? It's Wild and Crazy Guy Day!
Woo-hoo!
Yes, it is!
Welcome to the final part of this multi-alignment storyline connecting extravaganza. From Universal Disaster to SkypeNet War to now. I'm AJ, and today our destination is circling back to Orlando, but this time in the Disney alignment, which technically makes this a part of Disney Fighting Evolution as well. This is Wild and Crazy Guy Day, or W.A.C.G.D for short.
W.A.C.G.D.
The D is silent. So what does this arc entail? I see it as the winding down of 2015 in Shareverse, but it is just as interesting as anything else that occurred in that year, especially when you factor in the key characters within the storyline. The arc starts off where the SkypeNet War immediately ended. A life-size naked doll is ejected from the closed time rift, and Carmilla orders Astral Souls from the subcoral alignment to take her to a hospital. After doing a background check, they uncovered that it was the plain doll from Bloodborne, which many From Software titles are in the subcoral alignment, though it is strange that she had entered the physical world despite residing in the dream realm. Once Doll woke up, she had no recollection of how she got there and what forced her to leave. But while she was finding her way to get out of the hospital, her plastic body became organic and she began to fight more efficiently. So however she got here, due to the Time Hole Displacement Disturbance from the war, or TDD for short, it somehow placed Doll in the real world and gave her the ability to become human. Granted, it was discovered that she could only attain a human form for 3 hours a day. By the way, this was completely unintentional to All Might's ability from my hero, who has a similar time limit with his quirk. But Carmilla had seen a gold mine potential for the subcoral alignment. The Smash 4 DLC speculation bubble was at an all-time high, the Samus and Rosalina rivalry was heating up, and now Doll was in her possession. Inspired by Edward Dean's Coral Knights that started out not too long before the war began, Carmilla decided to do the same thing. This leads into the creation of Sub-Coral Knights, but don't expect a video on that anytime soon. But during its initial episodes, Carmilla, Doll, and even Samus were the original trifecta of the show that would stream online. Throughout the month of July, Doll was welcomed to Carmilla and her various group circles, but she did not feel like the alignment or show was right for her, even though again, Bloodborne is primarily in the subcoral alignment. But in one episode, the group visited the Disney alignment mainly because around this time, both Original and Neo Disney were preparing for their first major battle at the end of the month. For more information on that, check out the Descendants battle video. But that's where Doll became interested in the alignment, the Original Disney side, and the Astral co-owner of the alignment, Gatomon, who usually stays in her Lilithmon form. You want more context on that? Watch the Digimon seasonal reviews, specifically the finale video. Doll spoke with her to see if she could work for the alignment in any way. Her main objective was to uncover why she was in the real world, and with her help, she could find out what her purpose is. Which is strange because again, no way Bloodborne is going to be a part of the Disney alignment. But somehow, they reserved her a spot in the ABC Family building not too far off from the resort. Just so happened that it was the same room and floor that Trakina and former Saban employees used to be located at during the Disney years of Fox Kids Special. Again, shameless plug. But Miss Lilith wanted to make sure Doll would feel more confident, so she brought in her buddies from the digital world with Rio and Beelzemon to help her out. Doll was also allowed to bring in employees herself, as long as they were in the Disney alignment. I repeat, the Disney alignment. So instead, she brought Angel from the Coral alignment to help her out, because they both had short white hair. That's all they had in common, and they were also good friends. One other person that she recruited was another subcoral ally, Lan Hikari, but since Capcom does have ties with the Disney alignment aesthetically, he was allowed in. With a series airing both online and airing set episodes in the middle of the night for ABC Family for Astral Souls, everything was ready, except for one problem: they didn't have a name. For a while, the show was called Untitled ABC Family Product, but as word spread around in the Astral streets, one joke title was commonly used so much to the point that it would eventually stick. When I was coming up for the name in the real world, I was watching a particular content creator on YouTube that helped me get my inspiration. That's right, it was Chronicles. More specifically, the second part to his Casper Spirited Beginnings review, where Steve Guttenberg's character triumphantly exclaims,
Wild and Crazy Guy Day!
And immediately it all clicked. This phrase perfectly exemplifies what the late 90s to early to mid 2000s Disney meant. In my Fox Kids Special Part 3 video, I kinda misspoke when talking about political biases or agendas in Disney, because that's really not true. There were a few times where Disney would get more real than usual and shared injustices people go through in that time period. The thing is, it never really came out like that. Disney was only advocating the rights for people to treat everyone with equal respect, something I wholeheartedly support, but presenting it in the most hip and fun way. But outside of that, everything really did feel like a dreamful bliss. Maybe it's my nostalgia bias kicking in, but I really do miss this era of Disney, and ABC Family was that last stronghold. No pun intended. I think Rich Evans said it best when he used the phrase commercial surrealism.
Because it's always fake. It's always fake hip. I'm down with the kids.
Yeah.
Everything is really trying to be edgy, but at the same time, it's edgeless. But the name really did stick, as Doll used Wild and Crazy Guy Day as the title. All from a Chronicles video. I honestly wish he went back to making 10 to 15 bi-weekly videos instead of waiting 4 to 5 months to watch an hour-long video where he bombards the viewers with jokes every 5 seconds. But that's just me. Oh, and also, this non-canon prequel to the Casper film was distributed by Saban. It's all connected. Throughout August to October of 2015, W.A.C.G.D was successful. A lot of their content was similar to both Coral Knights and Subcoral Knights, but it was for Disney. And eventually, Doll decided to recruit another employee to the list, this time being Cherubimon, who, as a reminder, was Susie's Lopmon that became Willis's in the 90s. Again, this is explained more, but if you've done your Digimon homework, you would know. Now, if Disney has a strict policy of only having employees from their alignment, how are they okay with Doll running around with her best friend from the Subcoral alignment? Well, many people speculated that the reason why the show lasted as long as it did was because it was original Disney propaganda. This was still knee-deep into the Civil War, and not a single member of the show was associated with Neo-Disney. But much like the days it harkens back to, these messages weren't forced to the audiences. Not to mention, the show did make a lot of money, which obviously is a plus in Mickey's book. This was through word of mouth, several promotions, and Mega Man EXE promoting the show his brother was in all over cyberspace. I think it also helped that W.A.C.G.D was a tribute to the days of Jetix and mid-2000s Disney, with many videos discussing those of the past. But much like that era, success and prosperity would prematurely come to an end. On Thursday, November 12, 2015, W.A.C.G.D was gearing up for a new episode, and they were hiring 2 new members. After some consideration, and upon Lan's request, both X and Zero were hired to be 2 more members. So now we have an even split, 3 Digimon and 3 robots. Though I guess 2 robots and a NetNavi, or just 3 people from Mega Man. Easy enough. But because these 2 Maverick Hunters were a big deal, Doll wanted to give them an initiation test before welcoming them to the show. By the way, in Shareverse, some robot and digital Astral Souls could change their genders if they want to. It's a hell of a lot easier for them than it is for us. I'm saying this because X and Zero are in a relationship, and sometimes X will be a girl, or vice versa. Moral of the story? Trans rights. Happy Pride Month, everybody. But lots of people tuned into the live stream, especially since it was around the same time the Mega Man curse was inflicted upon Rock, as told in the Samus and Rosalina rivalry, and everyone wanted to get more Mega Man into their bloodstream. Realistically, at this point, I was really getting into the Zero games, so yeah. But this fight would shortly be interrupted by a threat no one saw coming. What came as a shock to everyone, the T-3000 was back on Earth shortly after his death in July. I guess because John was originally a good person, that his sentence in Hell's Prison wasn't that long. When he returned, he went on a mission to avenge the loss of Laura and kill everyone that contributed to the Skynet war. But also at this point, Terminator Genisys was labeled as a shitty reboot that, quote, erases the events of the first two movies, even though it's made clear this is a parallel universe, so how could it erase the first two movies if it's set in a different continuity? So there was a lot of things on John's mind. Literally, he had Riley's brain, don't forget. He was going to fulfill his obligation of killing the human race one way or another. His first major objective was to kill two birds with one stone. Take out both the Disney and Viacom alignment and make sure they can never come back. He planted explosive mines all over the border of Florida, and once he was done killing everyone, he would blow off Florida away from the United States and have the water consume the state. And it just so happens what was stopping him from killing Mickey and Lilithmon was Doll's crew. Everybody tried to put a valiant effort, but Rio got yeeted out of the resort, Beelzemon got half of his torso blown off, Cherubimon's body became the foundation to a crater in front of the building, Angel got beaten down hard, Neck got his neck snapped by John's grip, and poor X and Zero, who just started working, both got pinned and stabbed. And as for Doll, John did an aerial corkscrew to the face, causing her to get dragged into the dirt, leading to her getting another corkscrew to the face. Miraculously, Doll was alive by reverting herself to her former state, but as John was about to land a finishing blow, Doll noticed a personal angel entering the crater. Samus Aran was in the middle of training for her rematch against Rosalina in December of that year. In her spare time, she had been tracking John since his revival and waiting for his next attack. She looked up to him as a mutual warrior with respect, but now that he was evil, all of that respect was thrown out the window. Not only that, she saw him as a punching bag for her new control over her Metroid form. When I made my Samus vs. Rosalina video, it was only a month away from the release of Metroid Dread. I was a bit concerned of how this will affect Samus's Metroid DNA, and if the events of the game could be easily placed in Shareverse. But after playing it, I can safely say the events of the game occurs in between the two fights with Rosalina, so late October to mid-November. One of the reasons why she went to ZDR was to understand her Metroid form and any way to control it. Of course, other reasons include fighting Ravenbeak, eradicating the X-Parasite again, and learning about her Chozo lineage. After raging the fuck out, Samus eventually is able to reach total control of her Metroid forms and blows up ZDR. With total control in her hands, it was perfect timing for Samus to test it out on someone who was hurting her so-called friends. John seeing a worthy opponent, he turned all of his attention to her. The fight started out with the two in their normal forms, and it was already in Samus's favor by using ice missiles to freeze John's nanotechnology. Eventually, her opponent stood still, and his frozen body shattered to the ground. However, as Samus was checking in on the unconscious body of the doll, the T-3000 resurfaced in his endoskeleton form and pierced Samus from behind. But at that moment, Samus moved her bodies 2 centimeters to the right to avoid getting any important artery stabbed. That royally pissed her off, and as punishment, the strongest Terminator ever created would be pit up against the strongest Metroid ever created. Keep in mind, whenever John goes into battle, he rarely, if ever, sheds any emotions. But with his fight against the Metroid Queen, he was terrified. Samus's strength was able to overpower him 10 times over, regardless of how fast he was. She was able to stomp his kneecaps in, rip his right arm off, and was crushing her skull with her bare hands. She then unleashes an atomic breath to his face, and he officially goes out. With a roar of victory, Samus Aran becomes the first person in Shareverse to kill the T-3000 without the need of magnets. And the whole time, the live stream was recording. Everyone who watched this episode for X and Zero got traded to the best fight of the year, maybe second best fight of the year. Everybody was hyped, all except for the higher-ups at Disney. When Doll was recovering in the hospital, her co-workers greeted her and made a pact that they'll be ready for the next intruder when the time comes. But also, if the T-3000 ever returns, they'll make sure to have plenty of magnets to stop him. Mickey was planning on having a meeting with her once she was out. When she got there, both co-owners of the company informed her about how embarrassed the company was from this incident. Lilith Mon not so much, but Mickey was fuming. The reason why Doll got a spot at ABC Family so easy was because she was offered as the first line of defense for the alignment. So if a single intruder breaching a hole in Disney's defenses with ease wasn't bad enough, how about a non-Disney employee being called in to save the day? This made Disney look bad to all alignments that extreme measures had to be placed on W.A.C.G.D. Disney was already planning on rebranding ABC Family to Freeform at the start of next year. It would be a clean start that would offer some involvement from Neo Disney. But since W.A.C.G.D was labeled as original Disney propaganda, and now the new incident, Disney had already made the agreement to not renew W.A.C.G.'s contract for Freeform. Not only that, but in order to keep up with brand consistency, they planned to demolish the ABC Family building in favor of constructing a new one for Freeform. That meant W.A.C.G.'s final day of broadcast would be January 12, 2016. The show will go down alongside its building, a building that had been standing for nearly 40 years. Much like Trakina 7 years ago, Doll was in a battle from Disney she could not win. The last few weeks of the show, Doll continued to work on W.A.C.G.D without trying to sell out because she knew Disney would not budge to renew her contract. Except for the obligatory Christmas episode, of course. But off the air, the group became a bigger target for Neo Disney, DJ, the Clones, and even their ex-member Anna, all of which locating at Disney Springs. Doll learned about their goals and even fought them at times, as well as understanding Anna's grief from losing her sister earlier that year. And she got the chance to meet up with Trakina and her husband Mach-Cop, the former Alien Encounter Alien. Even though Mach-Cop left Magic Kingdom in 2003, technically he was still an employee for Disney because of the VR game and Disney Quest. They basically talked about what Doll should expect once she was out of work, but with Lilith Mon in charge, she could potentially find another job. But ultimately, January 12th comes around. Judgment Day for Wild and Crazy Guy Day. The final episode of the broadcast was nothing special. No big send-off, but Doll had to acknowledge that this would be the final episode at the end. Once the broadcast had ended, Doll quickly left the building without saying a word. But in her head, she was storming to Neo Disney's base in rage of destroying the company by herself. When the other members put 2 and 2 together, they tried to stop her. But she got to both Maleficent and DJ at the Disney Springs base. But they were expecting Doll anyway because they wanted to give her a retirement gift. Lady Maria of the Astral Clock Tower in Stasis. The woman Doll was designed after. Doll was given the exposition dump that because of the TDD, Doll was taken away from the Hunter's Dream realm and was modified to have half of Maria's soul, hence having a 3-hour human form and being skilled in combat. But as the show went on, Neo Disney dug into research and eventually found Lady Maria frozen in ice in Greenland for some reason. Again, blame TDD. But with this in mind, the two were pit against a match to fight each other, which Maria was the strongest. Both seemed to be an equal match, but with Doll's sheer determination to get back at the two spectators, she was able to defeat the original. Meanwhile, the 7 co-members arrived to Neo Disney's base, only to be stopped by John once again. But this time they threw a bunch of magnets at him and that was it. When they arrived, they saw Doll combating the 2 generals. Everybody chipped in to help, but Doll ordered them to leave DJ all to herself. But after a few more minutes of fighting, and as the demolition crew arrived to the ABC Family building, Doll stopped. A few minutes later, everyone arrived just in time to see the building crumble and fall. but in the form of a miracle. Trakina arrived to the building several seconds before the destruction began. If you remember way back in the first or second Fox Kids special video, you'll recall that as a token of his gratitude, Mickey offered Trakina the deed to the then Fox family building, and the deed proclaims that anyone who holds the deed has final say in any decision regarding the building. Why did she show up at the last minute? Because she honestly forgot she has the deed up until now. But because W.A.C.G.D would not be renewed, the building would stay entirely vacant, but it would not be destroyed. They decided to make it a museum for Disney stuff and W.A.C.G.D memorabilia. The first big thing Doll would do with the building would be a surprise to many. A few hours later, Anna got a call from Doll to visit her at the newly established Disney Astral Museum. When she got there, there was a Frozen exhibition that was set up with an Olaf statue in the center. She began to yell at Doll, thinking that all this was for bad taste. But then Olaf told her to calm down, which completely made Anna freeze. Not that kind. And then a figure arrived from the corner of the room. Elsa greeted her sister, nearly a full year of being gone. It turns out that before Doll left the Neo Disney base, she asked if DJ could at least make one person happy that day. Recreate Elsa for Anna. Otherwise, she would kill her. But this surprise was more than enough to make Anna's day. Maybe a little too far. Zero was reminded of the fact that the Maleficent and Aurora clones were also in the same type of relationship. The next morning, myself, O.C., who did have ties with the Mega Man family from the Mega Man Curse the year prior, was on the train to school. He then got a phone call from Zero, telling him that there were a lot of lesbians in the world. And so, that was Wild and Crazy Guy Day, the last major storyline of 2015, a ragtag of employees trying to retain the light of a subsidiary of the Disney alignment and the struggles that come with it. If you liked the video and the entire multi-alignment extravaganza, please consider hitting the like button. And if you want to see more videos, including the return of Smash Lesbians, don't forget to subscribe. With that, I'm AJ, and I'll see you all in the next one.